Other questions while we're waiting to get started? Okay, so let's talk about what makes things valuable as collectibles. Well, folks, you're not going to go into a Goodwill and find a really valuable shirt, I'm sad to tell you. In big thrift shops, they have what's called a picker. That's a person who sees everything that's donated before anybody else, and they pick out the stuff that's collectible, and they find other places to sell it to, with the exception of little mom-and-pop thrift shops. This is where you might still find some very valuable shirts and other kinds of things. So you're probably not going to find anything really valuable until you hit, your grandpa's attic or some such thing. So what people are really paying for are the silkies from 1945 to 55. They were really, this was the fashion for that decade, were vibrant floral prints in this heavy rayon fabric. And mid-50s, it just kind of went out of style. And what came into style was mid-century modern everything, furniture, artwork, and textile prints. So from the late 50s on, you've got a push toward cottons. The cottons are also valuable if they're done by particular companies like Kamehameha, like, of course, Shaheen. Uncut fabric is incredibly valuable. There was a time, I had a couple of bolts of fabric in the collection at the University of Hawaii, and one of the big companies that sells a lot of vintage Aloha shirts in Hawaii came to me and said, "We hear you've got some bolts of fabric. Can you sell them to us?" And I said, "What are you going to do with them?" And they actually said they were going to make Aloha shirts and sell them as vintage. And I said, "Well, that's pretty much unethical. And for me to sell anything to you is unethical anyway, because once it comes into the collection, it's the property of the state. You just can't do that." But people buy them, the uncut fabric, in order to do that. So you can buy something on eBay and they'll say, "This is genuine 1945 fabric," and that may be true. But if you don't know construction techniques from the 40s versus construction techniques from the 21st century, you may be buying something you think is old and only the fabric's old. So beware as a consumer. The cotton prints from the 60s are pretty hot, especially if they're pareo prints. This is a pareo print. A pareo print is, these are the designs that came from Tahiti. It's a two-color print where the original fabric here was probably white and the blue dye was printed on top of it. It's a real simple kind of a print, but they're very collectible. Pineapple prints and anything with tikis, of course. There are tiki clubs all over the mainland U.S. where people get together in these tiki bars, and it's this kind of thing people are after. Look at that fabric. Every time I see that, I just want to roll around in that fabric. I mean, because I remember that shirt, it was just the most, the feel of it was just incredible. It was beyond silk. It was really heavy, the really heavy rayon, and it would take, I think it had 6 or 8 different screens of dye in order to get all those colors. Absolutely amazing. This is, of course, a Shaheen. Okay, and I think I actually went through some of this a minute ago, but what collectors are looking for, what drives the price up, is the size first and foremost. It needs to be large. The problem is, in Hawaii, when these things were being made, people were actually pretty small. I remember telling somebody at dinner the other day, one thing I loved about living in Hawaii was I was so tall then. Every time I get in an elevator, I was taller than everybody. Because 65% of the people of Oahu are of Asian heritage. And they're smaller. So the shirts that were produced, the garments that were produced, were smaller. And people wore their clothes fitting closer to the body in those days when they were produced. So in some, the large size ones were rare to begin with. But collectors want to wear them, so the large sizes are valuable. It's the art that really drives the value of things. It's the quality of the art. The brand. Certain brands are highly collected. And the construction. I already went through the construction stuff with you. And I know you're not design majors, so I won't belabor it. I'm used to dealing with design majors. Okay, so these are things I've recently pulled off the internet to tell you what things have actually gone for. This shirt on the left was worn in the film From Here to Eternity, which always drives up the price of something. And at a Sotheby's auction, it went for $17,500. This is called the Here to Eternity shirt. You don't get, the best part of an Aloha shirt from these years is the back side, where you get to, it's like your wearable art. When you're wearing one of these things, the canvas is usually on your back. And you can't really see this, but it's diamond head. On the right, this one was just online like 2 weeks ago, and it went for almost $3,700. And it says it was in mint condition. Whether that's true or not, you never know. But what you're looking for is a term when you're a collector, dead stock. So that's something that came from the store and has never been worn. This one was posted for $6,999. This is the print is from the Eugene Savage artwork. If you were there for my first lecture, the one about boat days, Savage did this incredibly huge mural at their headquarters in San Francisco, but it was also at the dock in Honolulu. And from that print, all kinds of stuff got reproduced, especially the prints for the menus aboard the Matson cruise ships. And if you'll see, this was from the selvage, which is the edge of the fabric that's already kind of woven. It actually says menu design from Eugene Savage. So you've got clear documentation where that came from.